And now that the hour has come, Ms. McDonald, will you please call the roll to take attendance? Members in attendance, will you please indicate that you're present when your name is called?
Councilmember Brooks? Councilmember Jones? Councilmember Phillips? Councilmember Squilla? Vice Chair Young? Chair Driscoll?
Present. Thank you. A quorum of the committee is present, and this hearing is now called to order. This is the public hearing of the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities regarding bills number 251020, 251021, 260426, 260427, 260464, 260431, 260428. Ms. McDonald, will you please read the titles of these bills?
Bill number 251020, an ordinance amending section 19-1604 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Charges Where Water Meter Has Become Defective by authorizing the reduction of customer water bills due to defective or inaccurate water meters under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 251021, an ordinance amending chapter 19-1600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Water and Sewer Rents by revising income eligibility standards for the rate discounts and installment payment agreements, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 260426, an ordinance authorizing the Director of Aviation on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to modify a certain easement and acquire additional easement interests in connection with a portion of the parcel or parcels of land commonly known as 8350 Executive Avenue under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 260427, an ordinance authorizing the Director of the Department of Aviation to acquire on behalf of the city fee simple title or a lesser interest by purchase, amicable negotiation, dedication, donation, condemnation, agreement in lieu of condemnation, or otherwise in and to all or portions of a certain parcel of land known as 8800 Tinicum Boulevard in Philadelphia County under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 260464, an ordinance authorizing the Procurement Department on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to enter into agreement with the Philadelphia Energy Authority to purchase electricity and certain attributes and benefits related to the generation of such electricity from a solar energy facility to be built and owned by Reactive LLC located at Northeast Philadelphia Airport for use at and in connection with city facilities, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 260431, an ordinance authorizing the Procurement Commissioner on behalf of the city to enter into a concession agreement with Positive Energy, Inc. for the procurement, construction, installation, operation, and maintenance of direct current fast chargers in the cell phone lot at Philadelphia International Airport under certain terms and conditions. And Bill number 260428, an ordinance authorizing the Office of Transportation and Infrastructure Systems and the Procurement Commissioner on behalf of the city to execute separate multi-year concession agreements with It's Electric, Inc. and Positive Energy, Inc. in connection with the City Electric Vehicle Charging Program to site, design, install, own, operate, and maintain a network of publicly available electric vehicle charging stations throughout the city at curbside locations and surface parking lots, amending Chapter 11-604 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Encroachments Upon and Obstructions of the Street to provide for the discontinued approval of electric vehicle charger encroachments, and amending Title 12 entitled Traffic Code to authorize the installation, use, administration, and enforcement of electric vehicle parking spaces, provide for administrative enforcement of violations of electric vehicle parking violations, including camera-based enforcement and towing, all under certain terms and conditions.
Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge Councilmember Ahmed for brief remarks on Bill number 260431.
Thank you, Chair Driscoll, for having me and for convening this hearing and yielding the floor to me. I understand the committee has a full agenda, so I will be brief. As our world moves towards more sustainable and green practices, I believe it is vital that our city keeps up. 60% of Philadelphia's pollution come from vehicles, which is why, as a council member who represents the entire city, I have taken a particular interest in advancing electric vehicle accessibility for our residents and visitors. That is why I was proud to introduce Bill number 260431 on behalf of Council President Johnson. If enacted, this legislation would authorize the installation and maintenance of direct current fast chargers in the cell phone lot at Philadelphia International Airport. Simply put, this bill will provide Philadelphia Airport passengers, ride-share companies, and the general public with new fast electric vehicle chargers capable of charging up to 8 vehicles at once in just 30 minutes. This legislation is a significant milestone towards Philadelphia International Airport's goal of achieving carbon neutrality by 2050, and is particularly critical given our airport guests in particular need to be able to rely on a fast, efficient charge so they can catch a flight on time or wherever they need to go. I'm also interested in hearing how we are going to include diverse and small subcontractors in this 10-year deal. I would like to hear that. I'm sure that'll be in the testimony coming up, because I think this is an opportunity in these 10 years to really also build our business infrastructure and to really have a sustainability in that sector as well. As the chair of the Public Health Committee, I am committed to accelerating the transition to electric vehicles, and this legislation marks a critical step forward in democratizing electric vehicles for residents and visitors alike right here in Philadelphia. Thank you, Chair Driscoll and members of this committee. I urge my colleagues to support the bill, and I yield back the floor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you for your work on that bill. At this time, I'd also like to recognize Council Member Gautier on Bill number 251021.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and a good afternoon to everyone, and especially members of the committee. In particular, those of you who have co-sponsored this legislation, Chairman Driscoll, Councilmember Phillips, Leader Brooks, and Councilmember Squilla. Water is a basic human right, and we are lucky to live in a city where our water system belongs to taxpayers, not corporate interest. But water rates increased 9.4% in September, and another rate hike of 5.5% is slated for this fall. And in PWD's own budget testimony, the department said one of the reasons for these increases was to pay for the growth of the tiered assistance program. This means that every customer is already paying for TAP's expansion. For working families, rising water rates means pinching pennies just to pay the bills. And for those already beyond their means, it means dry pipes. Every Philadelphian deserves water, and that's why last November I introduced Just Water. The legislation before this committee today expands the tiered assistance program to families earning up to 200% of the federal poverty level, working families who are currently locked out of any water assistance at all. And it finally codifies the shared responsibility policy that PWD announced back in 2013, but never put into regulation and quietly walked away from. For too long, this city has held residents accountable for faults in government infrastructure. Take, for example, my constituent, Alexandra. When she closed on her new home in the 3rd Council District, the Water Department reported an actual meter reading and promised her water bill was accurate. Months later, after upgrading her meter at PWD's recommendation, Alexandra was hit with an $8,000 bill. Even though PWD told her otherwise, they reversed course and said the old meter in Alexandra's home had not been transmitting information for 8 years. As the new owner of the home, the city told Alexandra that she is responsible for coming up with $8 grand, even though she did everything right. And there is Elva McGraw, a retired Philadelphia school teacher and 2-time stroke survivor. Her daughter pays every water bill in cash, in person, with a receipt. In 2025 alone, the family paid $740 against $451 in actual charges. PWD's records show a credit of $5.90. Almost $293 just disappeared. When the family asked PWD to inspect the meter, the department refused. You will hear directly from her daughter Gigi today. Let me be clear. The city of Philadelphia is responsible for these injustices, for making water unaffordable, and we have chosen to let these policy failures continue for years. I want to address head-on what the administration will tell this committee today, because their central argument is going to be cost. The administration says this expansion would cost $23.5 million, but they have refused my request to show how they reached that number. And I'd like to add that I've asked that request privately over a series of many, many months, and still that information was not supplied to my office. The city's own water rate advocate, Community Legal Services, ran the same data and found that the real cost is between $1.96 million and $5.67 million, phased out over several years. Additionally, when PWD estimates costs, it ignores benefits. Programs that help our PWD water customers pay their water bills also helps PWD's bottom line. You will hear more about this from CLS today. I want to thank my co-sponsors, again, Chairman Driscoll, Leader Brooks, Minority Whip O'Rourke, Councilmember Phillips, Councilmember Landau, Councilmember Lozada, Councilmember Harity, and Councilmember Squilla. I also want to thank members of this committee and Community Legal Services for their partnership on this work. This committee has a choice. We can wait for another rate hike, another inflated bill, another Philadelphian forced to choose between paying for water and paying their rent, or we can act. I also obviously the committee will make its own decisions, but we have been working to try to come to agreement with the administration on this for many, many months. Not only did we back off of a March hearing we originally wanted to have to try to come to agreement and understand the fiscal note, we waited several weeks to schedule a meeting with a large amount of people from the administration, and when we arrived to that meeting, there was still not sufficient information for how the fiscal note, how the numbers in the fiscal note were derived. And so I hope that we make a choice today that will help the many, many people in Philadelphia who are struggling with their utilities. Not only has my office acted in good faith over a series of months, not only has our partner CLS put a ton of work that I will stand behind into this project, delaying further is not about a council office or a partner. It's about the residents of Philadelphia who deserve relief, particularly if everyone behind this project has been acting in good faith, and oftentimes giving more time and more information than council is even given as it relates to the $7 billion budget process. So I feel good about what we put in front of the committee, and I hope that we're able to have a fair and extensive deliberation today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember. Ms. McDonald, will you please call the first panel we have to testify this afternoon on Bills 251020?
Benjamin Jewell, Commissioner for the Philadelphia Water Department, and Kathleen McCoglin, Commissioner for the Department of Revenue.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Whoever going to start, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon. Benjamin Jewell, Commissioner for the Philadelphia Water Department.
Welcome, commissioners.
Kathleen McColgan, Revenue Commissioner. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Driscoll and members of the Committee of Transportation and Public Utilities. We appear before you today to testify in support of Bill number 251020, authorizing the reduction of customer water bills due to defective or inaccurate water meters under certain terms and conditions. We are grateful to Councilmember Gautier for introducing this bill as we continuously striving to improve service for our water customers. Water metering technology has evolved significantly over the last century. We have come a far way since the early 20th century when water readers visited homes in person to record customer usage, and from the 1990s when trucks traveled up and down every street in the city to capture customer usage data remotely on a monthly basis. The city recently undertook a generational water meter technology upgrade, which we refer to as AMI, or Advanced Metering Infrastructure. In this current system, dozens of receivers are stationed around the city, and the data transmitters on the meters send usage readings every hour. With each advancement in technology, we've been able to much more quickly catch and address any problems with the meter or its components, and identify issues inside our customers' homes such as a running toilet or other plumbing leak. Our AMI installation is 97% complete, and we are receiving actual reads from greater than 99% of those new meters, which will substantially reduce estimated bills. While PWD and Revenue are striving for 100% actual meter reads, with over 500,000 water customers across the city, we recognize that occasional issues will still arise. When they do, some customers may experience unusually large bills, and it's important that we address those situations consistently and equitably. For customers who continue to receive estimated reads or actual high reads, the Philadelphia Water Department and Water Revenue Bureau are working together, as we have for decades, to identify these situations in a timely manner, to intervene as quickly as possible, and before a large balance is accumulated. The Department of Revenue has been responsive to billing challenges when there are zero or estimated meter readings for decades, and have made improvements to how we communicate with our customers when there are irregularities in their water usage. In 2004, the Revenue Bureau issued a policy for adjusting accounts with zero usage due to faulty transmitters or batteries. This was attached to our testimony, called Adjustments of Accounts Due to Faulty ERTs or Battery Problems. The policy provided for a billing adjustment when the zero usage exceeded 12 months. In 2012, the Water Department and Water Revenue Bureau issued a revised policy for zero usage accounts, also attached to the testimony. The policy provided adjustments to accounts who had received bills that reflected zero usage for four or more consecutive months. These customers were provided with a letter notifying them of the zero usage, and if they contacted Water Revenue within 30 days of the letter, the customer was provided with a penalty waiver, and in cases where the zero usage continued for more than 1 year, a billing adjustment. In 2023, the departments revised the policy again to allow for customers who received not only bills that reflected zero usage, but also bills that reflected estimated usage. To alert customers to potential meter issues sooner, in 2022, the Water Revenue Bureau began sending customers notifications via email and/or mail when unusually high or zero usage was noted on their account. In 2024, the Water Revenue Bureau updated the water bills to have large red call-out boxes further indicating estimated or zero reading bills. The redesigned bills also direct customers to contact the meter shop to schedule an appointment. We've included examples of these bills with the testimony. The call-out boxes are located at the top of the bill and next to the usage graph. We also began sending mailed notices to customers who have received estimated or zero readings for 3 months consecutively, in addition to their regular bill. The Water Department and Water Revenue Bureau continue to explore improvements to the policy and billing procedures to more proactively meet our customers' needs while ensuring consistent and fair billing practices. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify today. We are happy to take any questions.
Commissioner, state your name for the record, and then we'll do questions after you do your testimony.
Sure. My name is Kathleen McColgan, Revenue Commissioner.
Please proceed.
Okay.
That was a joint testimony.
I like
I drew
that.
the
Yeah.
reading straw.
All right, well, members, do we have any questions? Member Phelps?
Thank you. I want to thank Councilmember Gadia and her office for working on a very important topic around, supporting residents with their water bills. Thank you, Commissioner, for being here today. Also, both commissioners for being here today. First question I have is, I would like to discuss significant difference between the administration's fiscal estimate and estimate prepared by Community Legal Services. The administration projects that the annual TAP discount will cost
Member Phelps, that's the next bill.
That's
okay.
okay.
Good?
I'll come
We'll
back.
just hold that question till
I thought he was doing it all for all of them, but it's okay. I'll come back for
if you don't mind.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so hearing no further other questions on this bill,
No, thank you. I just wanted to clear up for the record that I definitely understand the importance of this bill. Right, that's all. Thank you. All right, I know exactly interactive water meters. Thank you.
okay. So here no further questions. Ms. McDonald, will you please call the second panel we have to testify this afternoon on bill number 251020?
Robert Ballinger, Divisional Supervising Attorney for Community Legal Services Energy Unit, and Gigi McGraw.
It's okay. Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairman Driscoll and members of the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities. My name is Robert Ballinger, and I'm an attorney at Community Legal Services, where the majority of my work involves assisting low and moderate income families with maintaining affordable access to essential utilities, including water and wastewater service. I've submitted written testimony on Bill 251020. And on behalf of CLS's clients, I want to express my gratitude to Councilmember Gaudier and her staff for advancing this measure. Before I offer my comments on this specific legislation, I want to reiterate my prior testimony to this committee that the city can and should grant additional capital dollars to PWD for construction projects to reduce its need to borrow funds, which ultimately must be repaid through higher rates. PWD's capital spending needs are tremendous and represent a significant risk to the long-term affordability of water in Philadelphia. CLS supports Bill 251020 as it would address a current unmet need that our clients experience. We've had clients come in with large makeup bills because of either a defective meter or bad information that was associated with a prior meter or a zero meter reading over an extended period of time. Often the customers are shocked to find such a huge water debt in their name and associated with their property, and don't know where to turn for assistance. In our experience representing some of those clients, we do have to, on some occasions, even go all the way to the tax review board to get the kinds of adjustments that PWD has, by policy, committed to providing. It's infrequent, but it does happen. And I think these regulations are a really important way to ensure consistency in handling makeup bills in situations where there's been a faulty meter, and also, avoid the necessity of someone to really panic and have to search around for resources to help when the city, has the means to provide equitable relief to them. So we really strongly support having this bill move forward and engaging in the regulatory process. As I've said, policies are great, regulations are enforceable, and that means that customers can rely on those regulations to get the adjustments that are provided for. Thank you very much for your consideration of my testimony. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Gigi McGraw, and I am here today on behalf of my mother, Elva McGraw, a retired Philadelphia school teacher, a senior citizen, and a two-time stroke survivor. I am testifying in support of Bills 251020 and 251021 because what has happened to my mother is exactly the kind of harm these bills are designed to stop. For about 4 years, I have managed my mother's water account. I pay every bill in cash in person at the water department, so I am given a printed receipt as proof of payment. There are no leaks in the home. A plumber has confirmed it more than once, and PWD has failed to address my request to inspect the water meter, and still, the bills do not add up. In 2025 alone, my mother was billed a total of $451.29. $740 in cash was paid on the account. The payments were made on time, and I have receipts for every transaction. $740 is an overpayment of $288.71, yet PWD records only showed a credit of $5.90 going into 2026. The remaining $282.81 has simply disappeared into the billing system. Unfortunately, this is not a new problem. In 2021 and 2022, my mother was receiving water bills upwards of $300 a month. It took the intervention of Councilmember Gauthier office to get those bills reduced. Nothing about the household had changed, no new meter, no change in usage. The only thing that changed was that someone with authority asked PWD to explain itself. Every year since, a small balance reappears at year's end, a few cents, a few dollars. Then, without warning, it grows into an inflated bill that I have to fight to get corrected. My mother should not need a council office on speed dial to be billed accurately for the water she uses. That is why Bill 251020 matters. When a customer disputes a bill and asks PWD to inspect the meter, the department should be required to do so, and the customer should not be held responsible for charges tied to a defective city-owned meter. Right now, the burden falls entirely on the customer to prove something is wrong, while PWD ignores the request. That is backwards. Bill 251021 matters because seniors like my mother living on fixed retirement income are exactly who the tiered assistance program is meant to protect. Expanding eligibility to 200% of the federal poverty level would bring real relief to households across our district who are one inflated bill away from falling behind. Again, I have every paper bill and every cash payment receipt, and the numbers are in dispute. Currently, my 78-year-old mother, sorry mom, water bill charges are $72.98 each month, nearly $80, which indicates a standardized billing practice based on projected usage and not a true and accurate meter reading. This is not how billing should work. There seems to be a profound lack of oversight and, to be honest, a lack of integrity and commitment to serve the customer fairly. Will the water department be held accountable to its own customers? Please find it in your heart to do what is right. I urge council to pass both bills. Thank you so much for your time.
Member Phillips?
No questions.
No questions? Are here no further questions for this panel? We'll move on to bill number 251021. Ms. McDonald, will you please call the first panel we have to testify this afternoon on bill number 251021?
Kathleen McCoglin, Commissioner, Philadelphia Department of Revenue.
Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon. Kathleen McColgan, Revenue Commissioner. Good afternoon, Chairperson Driscoll and members of the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities. My name is Kathleen McColgan, and I am the Commissioner of the Revenue Department. I'm here today to provide testimony on Bill Number 251021, introduced by Councilmember Gauthier. I am joined today by representatives from both the Revenue and Water Departments. This bill would change the eligibility threshold for residential water customers to receive income-based discounted rates on their water bills and affordable payment plans. Attached to the testimony is the fiscal note for this legislation, which was produced using data from independent analysis done by our consultants, Raftellus Financial Consultants and Black & Veatch. With regard to the income-based water rate assistance program, or what we more commonly now call the Tiered Assistance Program, TAP. This bill would expand income eligibility from 150% of the federal poverty level to 200% of the federal poverty level. By increasing the income eligibility to 200% of the federal poverty level, more households would qualify for discounted rates and earned arrearage forgiveness. Finally, regarding affordable payment plans, this bill would expand income eligibility from 250% to 350% of the federal poverty level. The Water Department is financially supported nearly completely through the rates and charges paid by our customers for the services we provide. The Water Fund, which is an enterprise fund, supports the operations of the Philadelphia Water Department, including funding debt service payments necessary to support reinvestment in existing infrastructure and new investments to comply with current and emerging regulations. While we recognize the goal of increasing access to affordability programs, the proposed expansion would also have financial impacts for the water department and our customers. The first consequence is an estimated revenue decrease of approximately $22.1 million to $127.6 million over the 5-year plan. Most of this lost revenue comes from increasing the income eligibility requirements for TAP. We recognize this is a large range, but this range reflects the anticipated number of new TAP enrollees to be between 4,000 and 40,000. The 4,000 new enrollees reflects the department's data of previously submitted applications who would now become income eligible for the enactment of this legislation, whereas the 40,000 new enrollees reflect the population of eligible households using recent U.S. Census data. The second consequence of this bill is that all non-TAP customers, which include all other residential customers, will see a rate increase. This is because the anticipated revenue lost to the water fund would need to be restored. Any expansion of the TAP population would further reduce the non-TAP population, increasing cost recovery pressures and amplifying rate impacts. Enrollment in the TAP program has grown significantly during the last 3 fiscal years, with program enrollment increasing over threefold, with an increase in participants from 18,000 to over 65,000 between fiscal year 23 and fiscal year 25. By way of comparison, PGW's Customer Responsibility Program had 59,670 participants in calendar year 2024. During the same period of enrollment increases, the Water Fund experienced a collection shortfall of $36 million in FY24 and $23 million in FY25. After rate increases to account for the increased TAP participation and other rising costs, water collections have stabilized in fiscal year 26, and WRB anticipates reaching the annual revenue target. When water collections do not reach annual targets, there are no other revenue sources that can be adjusted to make up the difference. Instead, PWD would need to make reductions to services, staffing, or other planned infrastructure investments, which could affect the level of service provided to customers in order to maintain a balanced budget. To recover the revenue lost from the continued success of our current TAP enrollment efforts, PWD filed an advance notice on February 17, 26, and a formal notice on March 19, 26, for TAP reconciliation to recover reduced collections for fiscal year 26 in the amount of $14 million and projected discount for FY27 in the amount of $53 million. As part of its current filing with the Water, Sewer, and Stormwater Rate Board, the department projected that 70,000 residential customers will benefit from TAP during fiscal year 27 at a discount of $63 per customer per month. These additional costs from the increase in current TAP enrollment are shifted to all other customers who are not on TAP, and residential customers will have a $2.10 per month or 2.3% rate increase on their monthly bill. It should also be noted that a base rate increase was previously approved by the Rate Board in July of 2025, increasing a typical residential bill by $4.89 per month. PWD estimates that balancing the revenue shortfall from this proposed bill would require an additional rate increase of up to $3 a month for non-TAP enrolled customers. Taken together, non-TAP residential customers could see a monthly increase that includes the $4.89 already approved by the Rate Board, an additional estimated $2.10 increase related to current increased TAP enrollment, plus up to an additional $3 per month associated with revenue impacts if this bill becomes law. This totals an estimated monthly increase of up to $9.99 for non-TAP residential customers on top of any expected future base rate increases. The department remains focused on balancing affordability for customers with the financial stability necessary to maintain essential water services. We recognize and support the important goal of expanding program enrollment. Given the current structure of the water fund, however, any reduction in revenue must be offset elsewhere, and under the current rate model, those costs would be recovered from remaining taxpayers. I appreciate the opportunity to testify on Bill number 251021, and I'm happy to answer the committee's questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Member Jones?
Thank you. Couple of questions. So you have when you receive revenues for the water department, it doesn't go into our general fund, correct?
That's right. It's an enterprise fund. Right. It goes to a separate fund.
And based on that, when that was decided some time ago, there was to be every 4 years, as I recall it, audits of where and how those revenues are spent. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the first part?
It's my understanding that when the deal was cut to not put water revenues in the general fund, that in the law, it says every 4 years, there shall be an audit to see how those revenues and expenditures balance out.
I am not sure about the audit. I'm going to see if we can get that answer for you.
So,
Okay, I think we'll need to get back to you on the audit.
all right, so what I'd like to know, if that is true, when was the last time an audit was done to look at where and how those expenditures have gone? I understand the covenant in what you said was that if we reduce revenues, you have to find revenues somewhere to replace it. But if there is an audit that shows that you can find that revenue in other ways, I think we, as a committee, should know that.
Okay, thank you for the question, Councilmember. We will get back to you on that.
Okay. I do appreciate that the water department during the COVID crisis did not cut anyone off. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And so I want to tell you that we are grateful for that. But one of the things that I argued in these chambers to my colleagues was ALICE, Asset Limited, Income Constricted, and Employed. And that was the working poor. And that a lot of times programs in that middle class, working families, middle class, were not, so if you were in that category, you did not qualify for any of the support systems that you could get. And that if you're in that qualification too, you don't get any of the benefits of being in that top income echelon where that $9 a month won't even matter. So I struggle with this because I've made those statements to you before. So this is something that we need to ponder. In particular, I want to know about the audits so that maybe there's a compromise that can be reached on where those makeup revenues come from.
Okay, thank you.
All right? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I just want to note the presence of our Vice Chair, Jeffrey J. Young.
I have a question.
Member Young?
All right. Thank you for your testimony on this. You mentioned that residential customers will potentially face an increase based on this legislation as well. Are we preempted in any way from having a separate commercial versus residential rate to offset some of these costs?
I'm going to have Deputy Commissioner Susan Crosby come up and speak to that.
Good afternoon. Susan Crosby, Deputy Revenue Commissioner for Water. We currently do have a rate structure that is based on a meter size, and so for commercial customers who have larger meters, they are charged a different rate. So our residential and small commercial customers have 3/4 inch or 1 inch meters, and they are charged a lower rate than or millage, if you would, than the commercial meters that are used in the industry because of the nature of the size of their meters.
All right, so the answer is no then, right? And so if the argument is that we would see increases for residential customers who are of a little bit higher income then, right? Then why can't we just offset that with rates, with changing the rates for our commercial customers, so the residential customers aren't feeling that burden?
The adjustment for the tap rate is spread against all residential customers who are not participants in the tap and commercial customers. So it is spread against the entire rate base, excluding those who are in tap.
Yeah, but could we spread that a little bit more on one side versus the other? That's the question.
As it's set now, the Water, Sewer, and Stormwater Rate Board has set a calculation on how the cost recovery mechanism is done, how the cost recovery is calculated, and as a part of that calculation, it is spread across the users equally.
But most recently, the board mentioned that if this goes into effect, then they would have to change that anyway, right? So I think that's something that we should ponder, right? If they got to change their formulas anyway, right? If this were to go into place, if this were to go into effect, then I think that we should, figure out what that calculation would be so it's less burdensome on our residential ratepayers and pass that on to the commercial customers. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Member Phelps.
Thank you. While you're here, a question is still along those lines. You recently, Commissioner, thank you so much. You recently said in your testimony that taken together, non-tap residential customers could see a monthly increase that includes the $4.89 already approved by the rate board, and $2.10, $3 additional month. All of it would total $10, $9.99 for non-tap residential customers to pay for this increase. Along the lines of Councilman Young, how did that number come about, and what would trigger the $9.99 increase in terms of how many more residents would have to take on tap in order to trigger a $9.99 increase? Because if you said additional 4,000 customers could now be eligible for this, as a result, is it going to be 2,000 customers that's going to trigger the $9.99, or you're just going to automatically do it in anticipation?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I just want to break down what sums up the $9.99. So the $4.89 is a rate increase that's going to happen regardless. That's what every non-tap customer will pay every month.
Okay.
That's already been approved by the rate board. So that's part of the $9.99. The $2.10 increase, that's also a component of the $9.99, is an estimate that is expected to have to be paid by each customer monthly based on the existing tap expansion. So those that we've enrolled recently. The $3 estimate, up to $3, is the potential cost that we're saying a non-tap customer would need to incur if this legislation is passed, and that's also part of the $9.99. So that's the total of the three of those.
So, understood now. So the $2.10 is already going to be present with the current rate of enrollment.
Yes.
You're saying that it would be an additional $3 per month associated with this
Up
as
to,
a result.
yes, based on enrollment.
So it seems like the real problem is our residents are already going to see an increase of close to $7 anyway,
Yes.
right? And then you're going to have a $3. So technically, you're saying that what would trigger $3 more? Is it once we get to the 4,000 threshold, or is it going to be, if you get 4,000 more customers in tap, then you're going to put the rate up to $3, or you're automatically going to, assume create capacity for that already, because you're expecting it to go up?
So our fiscal note reflects our analysis. And the $3 per month for non-TAP customers, which is approximately 380,000 customers, that is assuming maximum enrollment. So that would be at the top tier of the the 40,000 people being enrolled, which is based on census data.
So if you don't get to maximum enrollment, that wouldn't happen, the $3 a month.
That's right. Well, it will increase some amount. That is the maximum amount
So
per
it could
month.
it could be $1, it could be 50 cents.
Right,
So until we meet maximum enrollment, it won't go up to $3.
that's right.
I mean, it takes a little while to get to maximum enrollment. Okay, that's something, and I just also have another question. The administration projects TAP discount costs ranging from approximately $2.4 million to $23.5 million, while Community Legal Services estimates annual costs of approximately $2 million to $6 million. What particular assumptions account for the difference between these two two entities? You all have two different analyses
Yeah.
around this.
Thank you for the question. So the difference is really based on different assumptions done in each analysis. So CLS assumed different enrollment rates, a specific enrollment rate, whereas our fiscal note shows a range of the 4,000 to potentially 40,000. They also assumed a lower discount per month per customer, as well as lower usage.
Okay, so you said they assumed a lower discount. And so that's the reason why there's a discrepancy.
That's why there's a discrepancy. Our analysis assumes a discount of approximately $45 per month per customer. And we just recently learned as part of the current rate case that the projected discount is actually higher than that. It's $63 per month.
So, okay, according to our data, the federal, what I have here is the federal income rate, poverty level rate it would go from $23,000 for one person that would be eligible for TAP, $23,600 for FPL, federal poverty level of 151%. And if it goes up to 200%, it would be $31,300. You're still on a serious level of poverty if you go from $23,600 to $31,300. So I do, as you would say, basically you're working poor, or you're not working at all, or you're on a serious fixed income if you have that. So I think the intent is real, is important. How do we get there? I think it's a matter of the fact that, I don't know if we have to increase people's water bills just to get to that level. And I just don't understand how you're getting to that number. If you could provide for a record, like even more details on how you got to the 23. You explained it, but I think I just want to see it visually.
We have that for you. Yeah, we have that for you, and we can provide that. And I also just wanted to mention, I know Councilmember Gautier, you said that you had requested it and didn't receive that. I apologize, because it was my understanding that was sent. So there was a miscommunication, but we have that information available for you.
And I just have two more questions. What participation rate does the administration expect in year 1, year 2, and year 3 following the enactment of this bill? And while eligibility is one measure, actual enrollment is often much lower than theoretical eligibility. So what are you anticipating? Have you done the numbers? How many people probably would sign up for this already?
Yeah, understood. So we don't have projections by year. We just showed the range by enrollment. So we have, for example, the cost if there were 4,000 enrollees, broken out by 4,000 enrollees, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, and 40,000. So that's the information that we can provide to you.
Why does the administration believe the upper end estimate of 40,000 participants is realistic? Are there comparable utility affordability programs, either in Philadelphia or elsewhere, that have achieved enrollment rates consistent with that assumption?
I think we can't predict what the enrollment rate would be, but it's just our responsibility to show the full impact from, the lowest rate of enrollment to the highest.
Okay, well, thank you. I just want to say that the fiscal note projects between 4,000 and 40,000 new TAP participants, I don't know, I would love for you to walk us through data sources and methodology used to develop both ends of that range, and what assumptions distinguish the 4,000 household estimate from 40,000 household estimate.
Okay, and so the 4,000 is based on customers who we know have previously applied.
Okay.
But we're in the income range of the proposed legislation and did not qualify. So our understanding is that there's at least 4,000 customers who are aware of this program, and if this legislation were passed, we would expect a reasonable amount of those people to apply for the program. So that's why we set that as the lowest threshold. And then the 40,000 is based on census data on total eligibility throughout the city based on the income level.
Yet you believe only 4,000 most likely would.
I'm sorry?
But you believe only 4,000 people would most likely apply.
No, we're just saying that we think it's reasonable to expect that that would be the minimum.
The minimum.
Yes,
Understood.
we aren't able to project how many people would actually apply.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. This is, thank you. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you. I got all the information I needed. Actually, some newfound information that was important. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner, you may have already answered it. So in line with Councilman Phillips, the existing TAP program, what % are enrolled of the total eligible? Do we know that, or is that?
I think we can get that for you. I know off the top of my head.
Because that might be a gauge of that you could project out what this new round would be. It would probably be in that same range.
Right.
And then we can come up with some number that, we know what we're dealing with.
I'll see if we have that for you. I know off the top of my head, all assistance programs in the city, we have approximately 77% of customers who are eligible enrolled. So that includes the tax side as well. So I'll have to get back to you on the water percent.
77% of the other programs? Is that what you're
Yes.
saying? Okay, that's helpful. Okay, Member Brooks?
All right, there you go. What impact do you see water shutoffs or threats of water shutoffs having on families? And I'm asking because I was wondering, what other policies have you seen other cities and states do around water policies that we could be doing here in Philadelphia?
I just want to make sure that I heard you correctly. Did you ask what the impact of shutoffs is?
Yes.
Okay. So we want to ensure that all residents have water service. Our goal is to ensure that all customers who are eligible for assistance programs are enrolled, and those that are eligible are then protected from shutoff for those that are eligible for TAP. And the enforcement of shutoff is really just simply used to get those who can pay to pay. It also helps prompt those who are eligible for assistance programs to get them enrolled in those programs so that they can benefit from forgiveness, arrearage forgiveness. So that's really the reason that we maintain it. However, I do want to just point out that we have dramatically changed the protections for shutoff over the last several years. During the pandemic, as mentioned, we did not shut off. When we did resume it, we increased the threshold to $1,000 for shutoff. We also have protections in place for residents that we've identified as having seniors and children living in a home. And we also have a raise your hand program so that if somebody simply says to us that they have medical hardship or a child or a senior living in their home that we did not already identify, we also protect them from shut off. So our pre-pandemic numbers, as I recall, approximately 40,000 people were eligible for shut off at the beginning of the shut off season. And now we maybe have 2,000 or so who are actually, experience the shutoffs. Yeah, Susan wants to add something.
Thank you. Councilmember Brooks, we've also restructured how we go about collecting our debt in order to provide our customers with more opportunities to come into compliance before we use the shut-off measure. We now place our accounts with outside collection agencies to give them the opportunity to come into compliance through payment agreements or by getting onto our assistance programs. And only after being with our outside collection agencies for approximately 270 days, if they still have a delinquent amount over $1,000, then they are eligible for shut-off. And in order to add an additional layer of protection, we work with the office, the Community Empowerment Office, or Community Engagement Office, I apologize. And we do emails, texting, phone banking, door knocking on the customers who have either received a shut-off notice or are in danger of receiving a shut-off notice if their debt is $750 or to $1,000. And we do that street-level outreach in order to make sure that people are aware of all of their options, not only to come into compliance through payment or payment agreements, but also for the assistance programs that are available. And if they just simply need more time and they qualify, we allow them to use that Raise Your Hand program, which will exempt them from shut-off.
Thank you. And my other question, it's related, but not directly. Has the water department done any analysis or looking into the potential of rate increases related to data centers that we've seen in other regions? One of the concerns is an increase in water rates, and have we looked into that, and how will it factor into this conversation later on?
I think that we'll need to get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Young.
Thank you. I want to go back to something that Councilmember Brooks touched on regarding just the other methods of, collection and what other cities are doing. And I introduced a piece of legislation that would prevent late fees for residential customers. And I have the answer and an analysis from the water department regarding that. But you just mentioned that you hire outside collection agencies and shutoffs don't really happen until the customer is delinquent up to $1,000, right? And so the argument that we received back from the administration regarding, the elimination of late fees is that, we want to be predictable, we want to have all these things in place, but if we already are not shutting off until $1,000, that's predictable. You will know where and when someone's bill gets to $1,000, and we say, okay, now we have the ability to shut you off, regardless of if there's those late fees. And I know you guys don't charge interest, but it's 5%, and then it's like another 0.5%, and after 60 days or whatever that is. So that's still adding cost to cost that doesn't need to be there if we already have these other collection methods in place. So I just wanted to put that on the record. And another question I have is regarding the analysis that's done regarding this particular legislation. Like, how can you determine what affordability protections are causing the net loss or improving the city's ability to collect the sustainable payments over time? Have you done an analysis regarding, the TAP participants, the auto enroll participants, the payment consistency over 90 days, the growth areas? Like, have you done this analysis to show us that this is a bad thing for the city of Philadelphia to do?
I think for the current legislation that we're discussing, we have the fiscal note that just simply states the potential financial impact with that range that we mentioned, and also the fact that it would impact non-TAP customers. So that's what we have available for you today. In terms of additional analyses related to TAP, we will need to get back to you on that.
Yeah, I think that's helpful for us, right? Because again, that will show us what the real and the true impact is. I mean, we still have the use of liens and shutoffs and all these other things that are available when it comes to enforcement. So I just hope that you all would take those into consideration when doing the analysis versus just, the impact that it may have on non-TAP residential customers. Again, we keep saying that when we know that we can go ahead and spread those costs over. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Member Phelps?
Thank you. So one question I just want to get clarity on is, you mentioned that there are about there's many people who are eligible for the program, they're not taking advantage of it. Do you have a list that you can provide to us of all the addresses and individuals who could be eligible for the program, that we can, begin to connect our council offices and say, hey, you're eligible for this particular program?
Unfortunately, we don't have a list that we can provide, but we do appreciate partnering with all of the council member offices on our community outreach events, where we work to raise awareness of the programs and try to get people into the programs. We do that at senior centers as well, and partner with other elected official offices as well to try to get that information out there. We also send out notices, and we also work to review those customers who have applied on the tax side to cross-enroll them on the water side. So we don't have exact information as to the people who are eligible, where they live. We have census information that shows us general areas and potentially the percentage of enrollment in those areas.
If every eligible resident in the city of Philadelphia took advantage of the TAP program as it currently stands, would this be alarming for the department financially?
If everybody who is eligible, it would be offset in rate increases.
Right, even though as it currently stands, not for...
That's right, exactly.
Okay.
TAP enrollment, as it increases, it decreases revenue to support PWD in their operations and sustaining water. And that is offset by an increase in rates to all customers.
So
who are not on TAP.
Got you. So understood that. So there's a tug of war probably within the department in this capacity. So why even, if you don't want, it's like, I used to run some relatively medium-sized nonprofits. It's like, this is larger, but if we don't want to have 100 kids in the program, why would we advertise that we have 100? Like, if we don't want that many students, if we don't want that many students in the program, we will always say we can only do 50 kids, but we can't do 100. Why don't, I don't know. I just think that why have a program if you don't want everyone else there?
I'd be happy to respond to that, because we do want everyone who is eligible enrolled, and that is what we're working towards.
Okay.
It's just that as that grows, we have the challenge of maintaining sustainable funding for PWD operations. And as it's currently structured, that funding is recovered through increased rates. So that's really where the challenge is. We want those who are eligible to be enrolled in the program.
So you mean to tell me all of the money that the Philadelphia Water Department, they're the largest, I think they are the largest generating revenue department in the city, doesn't cover anywhere close to most of the operating funds that are needed for infrastructure and so forth?
Details about PWD's budget and funding, I would have to call someone else up from PWD.
Okay, yeah.
if we would have had a audit, independent audit, we would know the answers to that right now. And so I don't know who you're checking back with to find out, but it is essential to me as a member of this committee that you have looked from stem to stern, up, down, to look at where you can offset passing this off to the ratepayers. And if it's a part of the law, then you are responsible to provide that information to this body. And otherwise, you're just passing it on perfunctory to the ratepayers is unfair.
No, thank you, Councilman Jones. I couldn't agree more. I am gravely concerned about how we Philadelphia residents put out so much money into the water department on top of the fact that the water department comes back to us for a budget. It's like you're getting money and money and money like all over the place. And I just don't understand how this is not, I know the demand for operations infrastructure is huge, trust me, I know it. But then you get federal grants, you get state grants. I'm just relatively, I would love that information as well.
Okay, yeah. Unfortunately, Commissioner Jewell for PWD had to leave. He wasn't able to stay, or I'm sure he could probably speak to some of that right now. But we can get back to you on that. My understanding generally is just that, costs of maintaining clean and healthy water also have risen in the cost of chemicals and other infrastructure costs. So, but details of their funding and budget, we could get that information to you from PWD.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner.
And also, Councilmember Phillips, in regards to your question about getting everyone enrolled that we can, we do have an auto-enrollment program that we use we use administrative data to pre-qualify customers to get into the program. And we've also recently partnered with our sister utilities, PGW and PECO, to do a unified communication where we have all three utilities sent out emails and social platforms, and to let everyone know that if you qualify for one assistance program, you qualify for all of them. And so we worked across all three utilities to create information and collateral to go out into neighborhoods to let all of our shared customers know that if you are on their assistance program, you qualify for ours, and we provided links for everyone to apply. And we had very successful rates of opening and clicks on those. And so we did see a bump in our increase. We saw an increase in applications as a result of that. And so we're always looking for ways to increase our enrollment, even though we have the constraints of only having census data and things like that.
Vice Chair Young.
Thank you. I think one way that we can, if we're looking to increase enrollment, and you said you partner with PGW and PECO, I mean, we send these out every month. I think we should just send the information in the bill to people and say, hey, this is a program that you qualify for. We send the bill every month. That's an easier way to connect with every single customer because every single customer gets a bill. So, that's something to look at. And on those same lines, it's not, if this legislation were to be implemented, every customer who's eligible will not, I guess, enroll on day one or even year one, right? So what's the cost associated with that? When you've done your analysis, are you including that every customer will be enrolled on day one, or is it like a phase type of thing when you're doing your analysis?
We have not estimated the revenue impact year after year. We are just, because we can't project the amount of enrollment that would increase. So we are just saying, if it were what we think is reasonable to say a minimum of 4,000, this is how much it would cost. And show that in tiers up to the 40,000 max to show the potential range of revenue loss that could happen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner, I have one procedural question. And then I want to recognize Councilmember Gautier, then we're going to move to the next panel. But so if this legislation passes, right, Well, let's say it doesn't for a second. So we're at that 489 and 210 combined. That's already been approved and that's going to go into effect, right?
That's right.
Correct. And if the legislation does pass, what's the next step? Do you have to go back to the rate board to get that approved?
That's a great question.
So
Yes,
this isn't
the rate board
this is
ultimately
sort of-
makes the decision.
I see this sort of possibly now as maybe an enabling legislation, but not really a final decision.
Yeah, that is a really good point, and I'm going to ask Susan to speak to the details of the process with the rate board.
Yes, if this bill were to pass, what would happen is it would go to the rate board, and they would have to make several decisions. First, they would have to decide what tier to place this new group of customers in. Currently, we have 4 tiers. We have customers in 0 to 50% of FPL, 51 to 100, 101 to 150. So they would have to decide, and then we have our special hardship customers. They would have to decide if they put these customers within that 3rd tier of the 100 to 101 to 150, if they would just make that tier larger and put these customers in that, or if they would create a separate tier for this segment of customers. In addition to that, they would need to set the percentage of income that these customers' bills would be based on. For each of the tiers, there's a percentage of income. For the lowest tier, it's 2%. For the next tier, it is 2.5%, and that is subject to check. I think I may have my numbers wrong on that. And then for the 3rd tier is 3%, and for the special hardship, it's 4%. So they would need to decide that percentage of income that would create that personalized bill for each of these customers. So they would need to make both of those decisions that would, in your words, enable this legislation. But the legislation would say these customers now qualify, and then it would go to the rate board to set the tier that they would fall in and the percentage that they would, percentage of their household income, that would be their bill.
But they can also say this isn't a good idea at this time, or it's not feasible, or do they have to enact something? That's what I'm trying to understand.
They would have to enact something.
They would have to. Okay. Member Gautier?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thanks to you and all of the committee members for asking a number of the same questions or similar questions that we have been asking for several months. And so even though we're still getting responses that we'll get back to you, I just want you to know that this has been a month-long conversation with repeated requests to try to understand what is behind the fiscal note. And I just want to say that from a professional and partnership perspective, you know, we're all in here every day putting forth legislation that we think will make our constituents' lives better. And if fiscal note is going to be used as a tool to either delay or discourage the bills that council is putting forward, then I think the administration has the responsibility to be at the ready with their assumptions and to back up what information is being put out to discourage the legislation that's coming from council. Just as a matter of operations, that feels like a fair way of functioning, you know, as council continues to work with the admin. But I also wanted to just point out things that I feel are misleading in the assumptions in the fiscal note. One, our analysis that was developed by CLS agrees with you about the low end of the cost spectrum. So at the low end, we both agree that there that is likely to be an annual cost of $2.4 million, because that's based on the 4,000 enrollees that you all already had apply that were not eligible. The 40,000 estimate is based in no such reality. And I think that we all know, council people know, the administration knows, there is no means-tested program in the city that has full, 100% enrollment. So why that would not only be put into the fiscal note, but also it's not just that it was put into the note, It's that the whole argument is anchored by this $23.5 million number that is not based in any sort of reality. And so as we've been trying to move this bill forward, we've heard several times that this will cost $127 million over 5 years, and it's just not based in the reality of how enrollment in city programs actually function. I also appreciate that you guys were asking about the rate board's participation. So you are correct that although the administration is estimating that $3 in costs would come from this legislation, that is not known. That would be determined by the rate board. And the rate board would determine the amount of discount or the percentage of discount that is applied to this program, and they would do that based on public input. And we have discussed that many, many times, and at the administration's request, we even lifted that information up in our legislation so that it would be understood. I think it's misleading to portray that there would be a $10 increase in people's water bills because of this, knowing that a lot of those decisions were made before my legislation was even put on the table, and knowing that the Water Rate Board would have to weigh in on this legislation. And so my frustration is just about wanting to be working together in good faith and wanting to understand if there's going to be information put out to discourage support on an issue that we have all talked about all this year, or probably since the Trump administration started. We've been talking about the increase in people's utility bills, and that's what we're trying to address. And so if we're going to consider this in a fair way, then I just think that the information should be fair. And I feel like from the perspective of my office and CLS, we have been working in good faith and can back up the things that we're saying. But I do appreciate, my committee members or my colleagues asking some of those same questions. I won't ask anything that you all haven't asked. I guess what I would say is that, or one question I do have, customers with household incomes between 150 and 200% of the federal poverty line can already enroll in TAP today if they demonstrate a special hardship, a loss of employment, serious illness, or a change in household composition. This bill removes that documentation requirement for the 150 to 200% band, but it does not create new eligibility for those folks. So why does the administration's assumptions treat the expansion population as if none of these folks could already apply for this relief under your existing programs?
Yeah, I would appreciate the opportunity to respond to several of the things that you said. First, we have been working with your office for many months, and I would like to say that it has been in good faith. And as I mentioned earlier, we have sent information, but it may not have made it to you. So I apologize for that, and we will get you the information that you requested. In no way are we trying to be misleading. The fiscal note breaks out the full range, right, the full potential. When we do a revenue impact analysis, we look at the full universe. So it shows by fiscal year for the TAP bill discount that it could range from the 2.4 million at the lowest level of enrollment of 4,000 to the 23 million at the highest level of 40,000. So our analysis just works to provide the full picture of what could happen in enrollment. And then also in reference to the $9.99 increase, in my testimony, we're not trying to be misleading. We are breaking out that, that $2.10 in addition to the $4.89, I think it was, those happen regardless. And the $3 is what we're saying would potentially be on top of that based on enrollment. And the point of just summing that together is just to reflect the impact to non-TAP customers should this pass.
Thank you. I think now we have had a successful relationship working together. I want to acknowledge that, and I appreciate you and your role. So my comments are only about this process. But if you're putting forward things that one, are not reasonable. We don't have 100%, immediate enrollment in any program in the city, so that shouldn't be a figure that we're speaking around. And it certainly shouldn't be the figure that anchors the majority of the administration's pushback. So that, to me, and we've pointed that out like many times. We've asked you, what are you basing that number on? People on this panel asked, what are you basing that number on? And so I think you have to be able to speak to that if you're going to use it to discourage the relief that we're trying to put forward for our residents. And also, during this conversation, it was kind of elicited that this would have to be decided upon by the Water Rate Board. When we met with you all, we talked about that, and we also said that we would try to make that even more clear in the legislation so that it will work better for you all. And so I feel like we've been trying to work together on this, but I just have to agree. I just have to disagree that everything feels in the best faith possible. But I'm also glad that some of these issues were talked about during the hearing. I have one more question, and I want to ask, why are we only talking about the water rate increase as the only means that we have to pay for an expansion in water relief programs? Number one, your own testimony already talks about everyone in the city already being charged through the existing or upcoming increases for expansion and water relief. So why would people are already being told that they're paying for that. We're just trying to make good on rates that were already, rate hikes that already went into effect and that were talked about as allowing more people to enroll in water relief programs. The other thing, in talking with CLS about this legislation, they have repeated again and again and again that there are other ways that the water department could pay for some of these relief programs if you're concerned about the cost. It is a choice to say that we're only going to pay for these programs through water rate hikes. Can you speak to that?
I honestly can't speak to that. I can't speak to what funding resources PWD can use for funding. I just understand that as it's currently structured, the vast majority of it comes from the, the collection of our water and sewer usage bills. So I think, as an administration, we can get back to you on that.
Can PWD speak to it?
I don't know that we have anyone here from PWD who can speak to it right now.
Okay, well, if I were terrified about an $130 million cost that I was pushing, I would be here to, defend my my assumptions.
We do. I'm sorry. Here's Lawrence Yangale.
Good afternoon, Lawrence Yangale, PWD Deputy Commissioner of Finance. I will want to address two things. One is audit of PWD. The second is how we spend our money and how do we have our expenditure. One is our budget is approved by you, and when we project our expenditure, we take the projection to the rate board. At the rate board, the customers are represented by the Senior Community Legal Services, and we go through our expenditure line by line to make sure that it represents what we need. There are instances we have filed for expenditure, they are being challenged, and they have been reduced. So we don't just go ahead spending money, it is scrutinized. In fact, I would say it's one of the departments that is very scrutinized by both the city and an outside counsel. Let me just be that clear. And on the issue of other sources of funding, we are open. We want to get as much funding from whatever we can get it from. We have gone to Penvest, we have engaged with grants, we are looking everywhere for funding. But the fact is that because we are an enterprise fund, we have been left to be supported by rates and charges. And there's no limit where, if anybody has somewhere that we can go and get funding from, we will appreciate it very highly, and we have made that very clear over time. The audit is done, the same organization, the Philadelphia Controller Office audits our record, both internal control audit, our financial statement audited, and that's how we go to the bond market, because we carry an audited financial statement to the market to even get a bond. So, I just wanted to make this a little more clear, our expenditure, our finances are clear. Our expenditure are not just growing wild, they are constrained by even the rate board. They have to approve our expenditure level. And based on that expenditure level, they set the rate. And the customers, as I say again, for every expenditure we present, is represented by the CRS and also other interveners. The Philadelphia Large User Group, everybody comes to make sure that PWD only get the resources it needs to support its operation. Thank you.
Member Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did I understand you say that there was an audit?
Say that again, please, sir.
Did I hear you say there was an audit?
I said that the Philadelphia Water Department is audited by the Controller Office of the city.
All right.
Yeah.
So, were there any findings in that audit? And when was the audit?
The findings that are in the audit, I can count to my head. There are several findings, for instance, over time should have been approved before it was taken. These are program audit. And of course, the nature of our operation, for instance, if you have a shift worker who is at a plant.
What year was the audit conducted?
What year?
Yeah.
I think that HR funding has been a couple of years.
In fact,
it's not unique to PWD. I mean, most city departments have had that kind of funding of overtime. It's not approved when it is taken. And this is a situation I was trying to explain. For instance, you have a staff working at the plant.
So can you get a copy? We can get it, but can you get a copy of that audit to the chair?
Yes. The controller audit, they update every year. It's an audit.
Okay.
Every year it's an audit.
Yes.
In fact, we need that audit to be able to place
so you said
our
other than the controller, there's an audit?
No, we don't have an outside audit.
Independent audit.
No,
okay.
We don't have an outside, only the controller audit.
Okay.
The other audit, of course, is not an audit, is how our expenditure are scrutinized by the rate board. And at that hearing, it's represented by other interest groups like the community legal services. We all look at this expenditure to say whether they are necessary, they are relevant for our operations. We are very scrutinized. One of the departments that is passing through that scrutiny, I can admit.
All right, last question, Vice Chair Young.
Thank you. So,
thank you very much.
This question is for the PWD. Is it possible then that the PWD can receive money from the city for whatever these increases would be without having to raise rates? Like, can PWD use general fund money to cover the costs?
I don't know about a reason why PWD should not. We can only discuss the means at which PWD can receive such funding. I think other consideration is that when we go out there to obtain bond, we represent that PWD can support its operation from its resources. But in the case of, let's say, the customer assistance program, it is my opinion that the city can help, can assist customers that don't have the means to pay for their water usage. We are providing the services. So if other government wants to help these customers to pay for their water usage, I do not see the limitation to that. But again,
So in our $7 billion budget, if our city wants to provide $2.4 million to the water department to offset some of the costs of the increase in this program, can we do that?
I think we would need the budget office to respond to that.
Yeah, we need, but the only one point I want to make to that, as Commissioner said, we need a budget officer. I was just doing my wish list, that any assistance that is given, especially in regards to rate, has to be consistent.
Well, this isn't about a rate. This is to be about a direct, I guess, grant essentially to PWD.
Yes. What I was saying is that if any grant comes that we have to impact rate, it has to be consistent. Say you get a $1 million grant this year, $1 million next year, $1 million the year after next. If you only do it for 1 year, the next year the grant does not come, it will have a multiple impact on the future rates. That's all I wanted to make.
I got you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And also, I just wanted to say that 2.4 million, as we said, is the lowest estimate that we have. But for any questions regarding the general fund, we would have to defer to the budget office.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. Thanks for your testimony. We're going to move on to the next panel.
Thank you.
Ms. McDonald, please call the second panel we have to testify this afternoon on Bill number 251021.
Robert Ballinger, Divisional Supervising Attorney for Community Legal Services Energy Unit, and Rebecca Pepe, PhD candidate in social welfare at the School of Social Policy and Practice and researcher at the Center for Food and Nutrition Policy at the University of Pennsylvania.
Good afternoon. Please state your name and proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Rebecca Pepe from the University of Pennsylvania. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony today regarding Bill 251021. As mentioned, I'm a PhD candidate in social welfare at the School of Social Policy and Practice and a researcher at the Center for Food and Nutrition Policy, where I study the impacts of unaffordable water utilities on health and well-being. My testimony today represents my professional views and not those of the university or Penn Medicine. This bill would expand eligibility for TAP from 150 to 200% of the federal poverty level, making affordable water service available to more low-income families. At a time when water costs are rising more than twice as fast as other consumer goods, this expansion would provide meaningful relief to households already struggling to make ends meet. I strongly support this bill because it would help keep families healthy, safely housed, and connected to essential water services, while reducing the long-term social and financial costs of water insecurity for the city of Philadelphia. Water insecurity, or the inability to reliably access safe water, is a much bigger problem in Philadelphia than many realize. The Pennsylvania Constitution recognizes water access as a basic human right, yet many Philadelphia residents have their water turned off each year because they're unable to pay their bills. Without running water, people can't wash their hands, clean dishes, or prepare food. They have limited use of toilets, must find alternate means to bathe. Something as critical as baby's infant formula becomes highly stressful to prepare. And the toll this takes on our residents' mental and physical health is significant. Households earning less than $50,000 per year are over 10 times as likely to report that they'd be unable to afford groceries if their water bill increased. These families describe difficult choices between paying for water and putting food on their table, often skipping meals or reducing portion sizes. They're more likely to rely on less nutritious meals and consume more sugar-sweetened beverages, placing them at increased risk for obesity, diabetes, and chronic diseases. When water is disconnected, individuals are at increased risk of dehydration, which is particularly dire for breastfeeding mothers. Sewage can build up, increasing the risk of gastrointestinal illness. Insufficient access to affordable water can contribute to high rates of respiratory infection and infection-related mortality. Without clean water, children can develop skin conditions like psoriasis and eczema and may be unable to maintain oral hygiene, placing them at increased risk for dental cavities. Families report delaying medical care, skipping recommended health care visits, or rationing medications in order to pay for their water bills. Water insecurity contributes to chronic stress, anxiety, shame, and embarrassment associated with mounting utility debt, fear of shutoff, and the impossible trade-offs families are forced to make. Water unaffordability affects everything from schooling and employment to family and housing stability. In Philadelphia, unaffordable utility bills and utility service disconnections are the most common housing issues requiring children to be placed in foster care. Families go to extraordinary lengths to avoid their children experiencing life without running water. Upon disconnection, some send their children away to live with family or friends until service is restored. Those who remain in disconnected homes find that the lack of water for bathing, laundry, and basic hygiene make it difficult to participate in work, school, and daily life. For renters, water debt can increase the risk of eviction. For homeowners, mounting arrears and utility liens can threaten housing security and wealth accumulation. The impacts of water unaffordability extend beyond individual households, affecting Philadelphia's most underserved and marginalized neighborhoods. When families cannot afford water service, the consequences ripple through the local economy. Children miss school, adults miss work, and households are forced to divert money away from local businesses and other essential expenditures. Water affordability is a public health issue. As the COVID-19 pandemic made clear, reliable access to affordable water is essential for hand washing, sanitation, disease prevention, and safety of our communities. Fortunately, Philadelphia already has a program in place that improves water security for our most vulnerable residents. TAP has been recognized nationally as an innovative model for addressing water affordability. Expanding eligibility to households earning up to 200% of the federal poverty level would protect those on the edge of this benefits cliff, who make just a little too much to be eligible, but still desperately need help and are otherwise at risk of non-payment. By ensuring reliable access to safe water, Bill 251021 will improve health and well-being, keep families together and safely housed, and help to prevent long-term threats to the city's financial and community health. The recent federal cuts to Medicaid and SNAP have placed unprecedented strain on our city's poorest residents, making the passage of this bill more important than ever. I applaud the efforts of Councilmember Gautier and this committee for striving to ensure that all Philadelphians have access to the basic, essential right to affordable water. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Please state your name and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Chairman Driscoll, members of the committee. My name is Robert Ballinger. I'm an attorney at Community Legal Services. Thanks again for the opportunity to speak. CLS's clients experience the kind of hardships that Ms. Pepe was just talking about. Our clients face water insecurity. They face disruption in family unity. They face loss of housing and housing insecurity associated with high water bills. And one of the challenging issues in representing low and moderate income households in Philadelphia is when there's nothing available to help. And so we routinely have people who come in who are eligible for our services, but they're just not quite poor enough. They're just not below 150% of federal poverty. So currently, some of those customers can qualify for TAP if they're over 150% of federal poverty. They qualify because they have some other type of condition in the household, something that constitutes a special hardship. And then they qualify for a 4% of income, a bill that's calculated solely as 4% of their household income, monthly TAP bill, and they participate in TAP to this day, right? So what this legislation does is it removes that special hardship qualifier for people between 150 and 200% of federal poverty. It just makes those households eligible based on income in the same way that households between 0 and 150% of federal poverty are eligible just based on income. So we support the legislation, obviously, and we believe that expansion in this way makes good sense to help fill that void for people who just aren't quite as poor as their neighbors, but are still facing economic vulnerability and all of the cascading harms that flow from the loss of potential loss of water service. I wanted to offer, if the committee is interested, I could talk a little bit more about the development of the numbers that I came up with for the projected cost here. I know you spent a lot of time on PWD's numbers, but just to just kind of cover that very briefly, every year, the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission, it does a survey of the universal service programs like PGW's CRP program, which is analogous to TAP, right? It is a bill that's based on a percentage of income. You get an opportunity to earn forgiveness of your debt. It's Philadelphia, and it's only Philadelphia. So we know from the surveys that they do that there are about 180,000 estimated low-income households, estimated low-income customers of PGW, and about 130,000 confirmed low-income customers of PGW. 60,000 of them participate in CRP, okay? They're confirmed, that's a 45% participation rate for households that are confirmed to be low income, and about a 32% participation rate for customers who are estimated to be low income. So full participation at the level of the census figures is not something that's realistic, right? So that's the first step in my methodology, right, is to apply the similar kind of reduction to get to where if we're comparable to PGW, we're maybe getting 45% of the households in the program at that income demographic. Then I have to allocate the households based on usage, right? Because if you make $2,000 a month and you're at 175% of federal poverty and 4% of income is affordable to you, you're gonna have an $80 monthly bill. If your bill is only $72, you're not gonna get a discount, right? You don't qualify. You don't need it. And that happens on the back end when people apply for these programs. That's why some people, even if they're currently income eligible, have affordable long-term payment arrangements because they don't need the discount because they control their usage. They have low usage. So I allocate the households based on both income at 3 different levels, 151, 175, and 200% of income, and based on the same usage characteristics of the current TAP households. So all of the approximately 70,000 households that participate now, I looked at 12 months of usage information and I averaged them and I allocated the households based on usage and income as I stated. The final factor is, what is the board going to decide is affordable? I don't know. I do know that we'll get to go before the board. PWD, the public advocate, any interveners who want to will get to go in front of the board. We will get to introduce our evidence. We will get to study each other's evidence. We will get to put forward our proposals for what that should be. And the board will decide. And it will take into account cost. It will take into account benefit. And there is a benefit associated with these programs. It's not just cost. These programs exist because they help people pay what's affordable. When customers can pay what is affordable, they pay it. Payment coverage rates increase and improve, right? So we can't just look at the costs, we also have to look at the impact on the other side of the equation, which is that providing affordable bills to customers improves payment patterns and it improves the ability of the utility to collect overall. So my scenario lays this all out with both 2-person and 3-person households, because the average household is 2.2 persons, and at 2 different income levels, or 2 different affordability levels, 3% and 4%. And that's how I derive my range. I apply the households based on the usage and based on income to the various blocks that we know exist among the existing customers. And I would just lift up that one of the serious cost drivers that we're seeing in the data is high usage. And the city is doing incredible work funding and building programs to help customers with home repairs, prioritize leak assistance, because that's going to pay off. It's going to help reduce the costs of these types of programs long term to have customers in efficient housing that is not using as much water. Right now, as much as 10% of customers in the program are using about 4 times what the typical residential customer uses. That's indicative to me of old, outdated fixtures, probably interior leaks, probably some toilets that need to be worked on. Small dollar repairs that can provide real large dollar benefits to all of us in the system, all of us who pay our monthly bills and contribute to the costs of programs like this. I want to also just acknowledge the tremendous work that the Water Department and Water Revenue Bureau have done to date in getting this program running. It is truly a model for the nation. I think we should all be very proud of that. And finally, I do also want to acknowledge that we are working hand in hand with the department and others, trying to explore external funding for programs like stormwater remediation, the big ticket items, the big programs that are forcing PWD to borrow money, to expend capital dollars, to do the kinds of things that we as a city should be funding more broadly, because those types of programs provide benefits that aren't just the water that we drink at the tap. They improve our quality of life, they improve our environment all around us. So when we're looking for external funding, those are the kinds of things that I would really encourage us all to support, and to support PWD in getting those dollars that aren't contingent upon me paying my water bill and you all paying your water bills. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have a couple questions. Procedurally, how long does something like this take to go to the water rate board and your analysis, the public advocate?
Yeah.
Like, how long is this process? And if it goes well?
Yeah, the ordinance actually sets a 120-day timeline. There's a 30-day advance notice period, so the total process is 150 days from soup to nuts. So we get started very quickly. In the context of a rate proceeding, we do have the ability to bring in consultants. So my analysis that I did, my consultant might come up with something different. But the idea of it is that we have an on-the-record proceeding where everything is on the table. All of our discovery, everything that we exchange in information gets included on the record at the rate board. So the record of a rate proceeding in Philadelphia is thousands and thousands of pages.
And who makes the argument on behalf of the ratepayer that might have to subsidize this? Who makes that argument?
Community Legal Services has the contract to serve as the public advocate, so we represent the interests of all residential and small business customers in rate proceedings. So that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to focus a little bit on leak remediation, because it has such a high probability of reducing the costs of this program to other customers. So you really see, if you look at the tables attached to my testimony and the letter that I provided to Councilmember Gaudier in May, you really see that at the high usage level, that's where there's a really heavy concentration of cost. So if we can bring those costs down, that's going to benefit all other non-TAP customers. And that's something that we'd love to have support from, and we will explore that in the rate cases as well.
Okay, thank you. Good? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. McDonald, anybody else to testify?
You're signed up for public comment, sir, at the end.
So your public comment? Go. Huh? Please state your name for the record.
Sure. My name is Lance Haver. I'm the former Director of Consumer Affairs for the City of Philadelphia, and I'm currently the Consumer Reporter for Philadelphia Hall Monitor. Councilman Jones, you're right on the money, you're right on time, but I'm going to read my testimony and then talk specifically about your point. And Councilmember Jones, Young, you are absolutely right. The idea of charging a sales tax on a basic necessity of life, water, to pay for a very needed program is insane. No one would suggest raising a sales tax on food to pay for SNAP. And yet people, including Community Legal Services, talk about a sales tax increasing water bills to pay for the TAP program. There are 5 reasons why the water rates have gone up by 52% in the last 5 years. 1, you have reappointed the same water commissioners who voted for every water rate hike. They have voted to raise the average bill from $63 to $96 a month, and it's going up even more in September. You reappoint them without bringing them in and asking, why do you continue to vote for rate increases? 2, no one has required PGW and PWD to look for savings by combining services and office spaces. There's no reason why PWD offices can't be moved to save money. Move them to PGW's headquarters. Why do they have to be in Center City? Let them help a neighborhood that's in trouble or is struggling with all of their employees. 3, at every rate increase, both the advocate appointed by the rate board, Community Legal Services, and PWD's experts refuse to hire consultants to find ways to save money. And this is what Councilmember Jones was talking about. Yes, they're audited by the controller, but there is no management audit to find cost savings. Community Legal Services refuses to hire an expert to find cost savings. The Water Department refuses to hire an expert to find cost savings. They both spend literally hundreds of thousands of dollars on consultants arguing about how much water rates should go up. And let's be clear about this. Every one of these rate increases I've talked about has been a direct result of a settlement that Community Legal Services, Mr. Ballinger, agreed to with the Water Department. Every single one of these settlements has been a direct result of the public advocate, who answers to nobody other than the rate board, settling a case and raising the bills by 52% over these 6 years. 3, Philadelphia Water Department refuses to recruit water-intensive industries to Philadelphia. One of our greatest assets in the city is how much water we have access to. The Southeast, the Southwest, they don't have the water that we do. Yet the Water Department does absolutely no recruitment of water-intensive industries. If we could bring more industry like Dietz and Watson in that use water in their processing, we would have more sales and we would lower the per gallon cost. Yet the Water Department refuses to do that. 5, the advocate appointed by the rate board, Mr. Ballinger, has supported every rate increase over the last 6 years. And every year, without a public hearing, without public input, he is given a no-bid contract by the rate board. Mr. Ballinger will claim that he saved ratepayers money, but it's just a game. Philadelphia Water Department asks for more than what it wants. Then in private, what I call secret, they negotiate and they reach a settlement. The bills from $63 to $96 could not have happened without Community Legal Services, which has no client group, which doesn't come before any of you to seek guidance on whether they should agree to these rate increases or not. Could not happen without their acquiescence. I'm happy to answer any more questions, but I want to make 2 more quick points. I did bring copies of my testimony. I'm not sure you're interested. One, I want to go back to Councilmember Jones, if I could. What you're asking for, I believe, sir, is a management audit. Someone to look at efficiencies, someone to find deficiencies, not a financial audit which says, did you spend $12? Yes, they spent $12, but it was a wasted $12. A management audit says you should not have spent that $12. They have not done that in a quarter of a century, and they continue to defend their waste and mismanagement. Second, and again, Councilmember Young, you raised this question. I'm going to try and say it without being outraged, but here it is. The TAP program is necessary. It should be expanded to 200%. The council member was absolutely correct. All of you are correct. But who should pay for that is a separate question. There are 2 questions. 1, should we help people who need help? And 2, how should that be paid for? By making it a sales tax. Now, I know they don't call it a sales tax. They call it something else. But it's an extra payment that you make on water. Whether you want to call it a surcharge or something else, doesn't change the fact. You pay your water bill, and then they charge you for a program, a social welfare program, a surcharge. That's simply wrong. The money, first of all, doesn't come from everyone. If you're a speculator in the city, you don't pay to support the TAP program. If you're a construction company that doesn't have an office in the city, you don't pay for the surcharge. If you're a visitor to the city, you don't pay to help cover the cost of the TAP program. Only if it comes out of the general operating budget does everyone pay a fair share. If you think about it for more than a second, this is the most regressive form of taxation not even Donald Trump would support. It is a tax on a basic necessity of life, water, in a regressive form that is flat. It's not based on the more you make, the more you pay, just the opposite. The less you make, the higher the tax rate. And with that, I will thank you for listening to me, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Here are no further questions from members of this panel, and there be no other panels to testify.
I just want to thank you, man, for the decades you've been doing and fighting for consumers in this city. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I really appreciate the time and energy you've put into this, and I know you've had a long day.
Thank you. Well, let's move on to Bill number 260426. Ms. McDonald, will you please call the first panel we have to testify this afternoon on Bill number 260426.
Kate Sullivan, Chief Commercial Officer, Department of Aviation.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Great. Good afternoon. I'm Kate Sullivan, the Chief Commercial Officer for the Department of Aviation. Good afternoon, Chairman Driscoll and members of the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities. My name is Kate Sullivan, Chief Commercial Officer for the Department of Aviation, which manages both Philadelphia International Airport, or PHL, and Northeast Philadelphia Airport, PNE. I'm here today to testify in support of Bill number 260426, authorizing the Director of the Department of Aviation on behalf of the city to modify a certain easement and acquire additional easement interests in connection with a portion of the parcel of land commonly known as 8350 Executive Avenue, under certain terms and conditions. PHL is a self-sustaining entity which uses no local taxpayer dollars for its operation and generates significant economic annual impact for our region. PHL is in the process of creating additional refrigerated warehouse space, which would provide new economic growth and create jobs. The addition of this refrigerated warehouse space, otherwise known as a cool port, will help attract new businesses and generate new tax revenue for Philadelphia and the Commonwealth. Cool port facilities offer broad cooler and freezer temperatures to accommodate perishable cargo, including pharmaceuticals, life science-related goods, perishable food, and specialized electronics. Bill number 260426 would expand the current easement granted to 4630 Island Ave. It's a property owned by the city's Department of Aviation and the site of the location of the project, to allow for the installation and maintenance of water pipes, natural gas pipes, fiber optic cables, conduits, electrical, telecommunications, and related equipment, structures, infrastructure, fixtures, and other personal property, both above and below ground. The easement is connected to 8350 Executive Ave and expands the current easement agreement between the two properties. This project is essential to the completion of the project and will allow construction to commence and will support the facility once completed. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of Bill number 260426. I kindly ask the committee for a favorable recommendation and that the rules be suspended to allow for first reading at the next session of council. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
I think you're good.
Okay,
Thank you for your testimony.
thank you.
Hearing no further questions from members of this panel, and there be no other panels to testify on Bill, is it 260427, Mar? So we're going to move on to 427. Okay. And you're going to testify for that?
Yep.
Okay.
Got me again.
Please proceed.
Okay, I'm still Kate Sullivan, still Chief Commercial Officer for the Department of Aviation. Good afternoon, Chairman Driscoll and members of the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities. My name is Kate Sullivan, Chief Commercial Officer for the Department of Aviation, which manages both Philadelphia International Airport, PHL, and Northeast Philadelphia Airport, PNE. I am here today to testify in support of Bill number 260427, authorizing the Director of the Department of Aviation, the DOA, to acquire, on behalf of the city, fee simple title or lesser interest by purchase, amicable negotiation, dedication, donation, condemnation, agreement in lieu of condemnation or otherwise, in and to all or portions of a certain parcel of land known as 8800 Tinicum Boulevard in Philadelphia County, under certain terms and conditions. As a self-sustaining entity which uses no local taxpayer dollars for its operations, PHL generates significant annual economic impact for our region and creates thousands of jobs. However, compared to many of our peer airports, our facility has very little room to grow, as it's surrounded by I-95, the Schuylkill River, the Delaware River, and Tinicum Township. So, when able, PHL looks for opportunities to expand its footprint by acquiring adjacent property. The parcel of land at 8800 Tinicum Boulevard consists of 31.56 acres of space, including a 441,000 square foot office building, and has a parking lot that can accommodate 1,285 cars. The lot currently stands vacant and borders airport property, something which makes it prime consideration for acquisition. Bill number 260427 would allow the DOA to acquire the parcel of land known as 8800 Tinicum Boulevard. This purchase would utilize airport commercial funds and would not impact the general fund. The parcel would allow the airport to expand its footprint and could be utilized for many purposes, prime among them office space and parking. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of Bill 260427. I kindly ask the committee for a favorable recommendation and that the rules be suspended to allow for first reading at the next session of council.
Chair recognizes Member Phillips.
Thank you. I just want to know what is the plan for the parcel of land? Do you have a clear plan for what you like to do with it?
Yeah.
Out of curiosity.
That's great. Thank you very much for the question, Council Member. As I said in my testimony, PHL is just incredibly land constrained. We're about 2,500 acres and do about 30 million passengers a year on those 2,500 acres. So we're hemmed in by highways, by rivers, by towns. So basically, policy-wise, when an adjacent parcel comes available for us to look at, we at least want to have a conversation about it. We don't have a final determination on what the use will be, but we're looking at a couple of possible uses, including using the building as office space.
Okay, so ultimately, you simply just want to be able to acquire this parcel of land without having a sense of what you want to do with it?
Without a final determination, yeah. We are looking at a number of potential uses.
It doesn't cost taxpayer money, but I just don't understand. I think you should have a plan, but thank you.
I appreciate that, thanks.
Chairman, Member Jones?
Is this in Tinicum Township or in Philly?
This is in Philly.
Thank you.
Okay, see no further questions for this panel, and there'd be no other panels to testify on Bill number 260427. We will now move on to Bill number 260464. Ms. McDonald, will you please call the first panel we have to testify this afternoon on Bill number 260464?
Jessica Noon, Sustainability Manager, Department of Aviation.
Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Noon. I'm the Sustainability Manager for the Department of Aviation. Good afternoon, Chairman Driscoll and members of the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities. My name is Jessica Noon. I'm the Sustainability Manager for Department of Aviation, which manages both Philadelphia International Airport, PHL, and Northeast Philadelphia Airport, PNE. I'm here today to testify in support of Bill number 260464, authorizing the Procurement Department on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to enter into an agreement with the Philadelphia Energy Authority to purchase electricity and certain attributes and benefits related to the generation of such electricity from a solar energy facility to be built and owned by Reactivate LLC, located at Northeast Philadelphia Airport, for use and at and in connection with city facilities, all under certain terms and conditions. To protect our environment, the Department of Aviation has taken many steps to move towards sustainable and green practices, such as setting ambitious goals to mitigate our environmental impact. The Department of Aviation is committed to purchasing or generating 100% renewable energy through collaboration with the City of Philadelphia Office of Sustainability. To achieve this goal, the Philadelphia Energy Authority, PEA, has partnered with the DOA, Department of Aviation, alongside the chosen developer and owner, Reactivate, to build and maintain a solar farm at PNE. The new solar farm will provide approximately 3,000 megawatts of annual energy to the PNE airport, meeting PNE's total electricity needs. Bill number 260464 would allow the Department of Aviation to enter into a 25-year power purchase agreement to build and procure renewable energy from Reactivate's solar farm, creating the largest solar array within Philadelphia. The Department of Aviation will purchase electricity for 25 years through this PPA, reducing risk exposure to volatile energy markets and providing an expected $116,000 in energy cost savings over the agreement's lifetime. Reactivate will be responsible for construction, ownership, maintenance, and operation of the solar farm, and the Department of Aviation will have no additional costs or responsibilities regarding the maintenance or operation of this project. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of Bill Number 260464. I kindly ask the committee for adoption of the amendment, a favorable recommendation, and that the rules may be suspended to allow for first reading at the next session of council. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Sure. Good afternoon, Chair Driscoll and members of the committee. I'm Katie Bartolota, Vice President of Policy and Strategic Partnerships with the Philadelphia Energy Authority, or PEA. I'm testifying in support of Bill Number 260464. PEA is an independent municipal authority advancing projects and programs that deliver on the city's most urgent priorities: lower bills, stronger infrastructure, safer neighborhoods, and quality jobs. Since 2016, PEA has supported over $1.3 billion in investment, creating more than 11,000 jobs in Philadelphia and driving $2.4 billion in economic benefits across Pennsylvania. PEA works closely with the Office of Sustainability and other city departments, such as the Department of Aviation, or DOA, to fulfill its normal course of business, evaluating and pursuing cost-effective energy procurement strategies that align with the goals of the Municipal Energy Plan. In particular, PEA provides capabilities that the city does not have on its own, including holding long-term contracts for energy procurement for projects like the on-site PNE solar project. PEA provides energy deal structure and contracting expertise to support the city's robust energy procurement strategy. Selected through a competitive bid process, the 1.5 megawatt PNE solar power purchase agreement will cover 100% of PNE's electricity needs, as Jessica mentioned. A PPA is a very common structure used to develop and finance solar installations in which the city commits to buying the electricity from the array, and the third party handles construction and operations and maintenance through the entire term of the contract. It will be the city's largest on-site solar project within the city limits. And through this procurement contract, the city will purchase electricity at a fixed rate, resulting in increased budget stability and reducing risk exposure to volatile energy markets, something I know Council has been talking about quite a bit lately. Some members may recall that DOA and PEA brought this project before Council once before in 2022. The project did not advance at that time due to challenges with the PECO interconnection process that caused months of delay, and our vendor could not hold pricing for until that was resolved. But DOA has been a very patient and diligent partner to PECO, making the necessary upgrades so PECO can be ready to help connect this important cost-stabilizing clean energy resource to the grid. We expect PECO will continue to be a good partner to ensure a smooth interconnection process to allow our vendor, Reactivate, to bring this project into operation in time to capture the sunsetting federal tax credits. PEA supports the PNE solar project as a key strategy in DOA's sustainability goals to ensure that the city's energy supply is clean, cost-controlled, and affordable for the long term. For these reasons, we ask for your support of Bill Number 260464.
Vice Chair Young.
Thank you. Once the solar is installed, is the vendor allowed to then sell that energy to other places other than to the airport?
That's a great question. The vendor is selling the electricity to the airport for the entire term of the contract, so they will be the only off-taker of the power from that solar array.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. We'll now move on to Bill Number 260464, we'll move on to Bill Number 260431. Ms. McDonald, please call the first panel we have to testify this afternoon on Bill Number 260431.
Jessica Noon, Sustainability Manager, Department of Aviation.
Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairman Driscoll and members of the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities. My name is Jessica Noon, Sustainability Manager for the Department of Aviation, DOA, which manages both Philadelphia International Airport and Northeast Philadelphia Airport. I'm here today to testify in support of Bill Number 260431, authorizing the Procurement Commissioner on behalf of the city. This is the wrong one. Sorry about that.
Take your time in.
Oh, wait, no, this is correct. I'm here to testify in support of Bill Number 260431, authorizing the Procurement Commissioner on behalf of the city to enter into a concession agreement with Positive Energy Incorporated for the procurement, construction, installation, operation, and maintenance of direct current fast chargers in the cell phone lot at Philadelphia International Airport under certain terms and conditions. With the interest in electric vehicles growing within Philadelphia, many Philadelphians struggle to find places to charge their vehicles. For the past few years, our team has been studying to assess the appropriate location and opportunity at PHL to install EV charging stations for our passengers, rideshare vehicles, and the public. The site was chosen as PHL's cell phone waiting lot, as it is accessible to both I-95 and Route 291. The cell phone lot is located immediately northwest of the terminal complex and provides temporary parking spaces for individuals waiting to pick up travelers coming through PHL. Bill Number 260431 would install 4 EV fast chargers which can charge up to 8 vehicles at a time and provide a full charge within 30 minutes. All members of the public, including PHL passengers, rideshare operators, who are typically not allowed on the cell phone lot, will be allowed to access these chargers, creating an easily accessible EV charging station for people who live and work around the airport. The selected vendor, Positive Energy Incorporated, will initiate a PICO account for this location and design and build the chargers, while the Department of Aviation will review all design and construction via a concession contract. Positive Energy shall own and maintain the chargers and not impose a fee for use of them. The Department of Energy will receive 33% of the revenue for the first 5 years of this contract and 37% for the following 5 years. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of Bill Number 260431. I kindly ask the committee for a favorable recommendation and that the rules be suspended to allow for that first reading at the next session of council.
Okay.
I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I think we're good. So we're hearing no further questions from members for this panel, and there being no other panels to testify on Bill Number 260431, we'll move on to Bill Number 260428. Ms. McDonald, will you please call the first panel we have to testify this afternoon on Bill Number 260428?
Anna Kelly, Senior Policy Advisor for EV and Parking, Office of Transportation and Infrastructure Systems.
Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Driscoll and members of the Transportation Committee. My name is Anna Kelly. I'm Senior Policy Advisor for EV and Parking with the Office of Transportation and Infrastructure Systems, or OTIS. I'm here today with Chris Pahalski, Director of Policy and Strategic Initiatives at OTIS, and we're here to offer testimony on Bill Number 260428, sponsored by Councilmember Driscoll. In addition to Councilmember Driscoll, we'd like to thank the council members and staff for their ongoing engagement on this program. So this bill will authorize the launch of Charge PHL, a public-private partnership in which 2 vendors will provide over 800 publicly available EV charging stations across the city over the next 10 years at no capital cost to the city. This bill will, first, authorize OTIS and the Procurement Commissioner on behalf of the city to execute separate multi-year concession agreements with It's Electric and Positive Energy to site, design, install, own, and maintain a network of publicly available EV charging stations throughout the city at curbside locations and surface parking lots. Positive Energy and It's Electric were selected out of 6 bids submitted for this opportunity. The procurement process was quite extensive and included several interviews, demonstrations, and extensive negotiations. Both companies were selected for their experience, operations and maintenance plans, and siting and expansion approaches. In addition to this criteria, both vendors have been excellent partners throughout the negotiations, expressing a commitment to providing safe public charging throughout all Philadelphia neighborhoods and ensuring that chargers throughout the city provide the best possible user experience. While several companies that applied had the technical qualifications, these 2 companies rose above as partners in the work to expand EV access. Second, this bill would amend Title 12, entitled Traffic Code, to authorize the installation, use, administration, and enforcement of EV parking spaces, provide for administrative enforcement of violations of EV parking violations, which would include camera-based enforcement and towing. And finally, amend Chapter 11604 to sunset the existing private curbside charging program over the next 10 years. This program was initiated because the current state of EV charging in the city is unsafe and insufficient. Currently, the average Philadelphian lives a half mile from a gas station, but 1.4 miles from an EV charger. The lack of available charging infrastructure leaves many EV owners dangling extension cords out of windows or across sidewalks. Through this program, the city would provide a safe option for charging for existing EV owners and to encourage EV uptake. The expansion of EV infrastructure will also improve the city's air quality. Motor vehicles are responsible for 60% of the city's pollution, and Philadelphia consistently receives an F grade for pollution from the American Lung Association. The transition to EVs will reduce these pollutants and, as a result, decrease the devastating impacts of asthma and heart disease in our communities. This expansion of our EV infrastructure will come at minimal cost to the city. Capital costs will be contributed by the vendors in conjunction with federal funding, and vendors will be responsible for the design, installation, operations, and maintenance of the charging network. Securing these contracts in a timely fashion is essential to accessing federal funding rounds, some of which are coming up at the end of the summer for between $14 to $18 million in federal funding. Since the legislation was introduced, Otis has engaged RCO leaders, advocates, and council offices on this program to answer questions and determine strategies for siting curbside EV charging stations across the city. We've also received letters of support from Physicians for Social Responsibility, Clean Air Council, and the Electrification Coalition. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
No, we're good. Vice Chair Yon.
Thank you. Can you tell us if there, or what the cost would be for the customer, for the user on this end? Will it be below what the market is for this, or can you tell us how the pricing is determined?
Yes, so I'll start, and then if Chris has anything to add. We will be approving any fee changes within the contract. Will enforce our approval of any fee changes. Doing some back of the envelope math, a charge overnight would likely cost someone around $13, which is much lower than the cost of gas and competitive with market rate.
So I think that's not a concern, but if this is going to be a government program, I would expect that it be a little bit lower than what the market can produce. I don't want, you mentioned 1.5 miles away for a charger station. I don't want the government to be in the business of, potentially gouging folks out because they know that they're just further away for them to move. So, I just want us to look at that a little bit to see how we can lower those costs for people. If we're going to encourage EVs in our city, then make sure that the costs attributed to that are a little bit lower.
Yeah, Council Member, I appreciate that comment. Just the goal is that you wouldn't be farther from an EV charger than you are currently from a gasoline station. And what we've seen with the private market, it's not so much that the costs are high with the privately available chargers. They're like my colleague Anna said, they're much cheaper than paying for gas. They're just not available in certain neighborhoods. And when we see where the private sector has chosen to install chargers, it's mostly concentrated in Center City. And what we're looking to do for this program is making sure that every resident has access to EV charging close at hand in their neighborhood.
No, thank you. I got drilled by a constituent who lives in Fairmount who was asking for this because they see their neighbors under the old program essentially have a free parking spot in front of their house. And so they wanted access to this, and I mentioned this legislation, but it's 10 years too late for them essentially. So I look forward to helping with this particular program and installing these all over the city. Which brings to my next question is that in my district, we have a lot of city-owned land. Have you guys looked into developing city-owned land for some of these charging stations?
Yeah, so we are going to be using currently city-owned and public PPA-operated lots are going to be used for the chargers. If there are opportunities with other city-owned land and there's not, we'd be glad to work with Department of Public Property to find that if that's the use that makes sense.
I mean, I'm just thinking, for example, in North Philly, there is no parking authority. I mean, there's a parking authority lot or managed lot, but it's on city-owned land. So I would just hope that we, take a look at some of those outside of, the neighborhoods where we want the expansion of electric vehicles. If we can put that infrastructure there to kind of incentivize those residents to purchase electric vehicles, I think it would be helpful. I mean, I have a lot of friends who, they rent Teslas for Ubers, but they have to drive all the way up to the Northeast to charge their cars up while they're working, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be helpful to, if we want to incentivize other residents to purchase these electric vehicles, to install them in those neighborhoods where we might not think that, the folks will want to have them, so.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and we will do that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So currently, how many charging stations do we have in Philadelphia?
The last count that I did, there's around 175 that are publicly available. There's a lot that are private that people have in their garages, et cetera, that we don't have access to that data, but yeah, just under 200.
And the rollout of these stations that are publicly accessible, will they be in like a 7-Eleven you can go in and charge your car, or what's the distribution plan for these stations?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's sort of two categories here. One is the PPA parking lots, as we mentioned. We'll be installing charging stations, fast charging stations, and level 2 charging stations in a variety of PPA parking lots. And then additionally, we'll be looking at curbside locations, and we'll be working with council offices and with RCOs to site those locations where they best make sense. We are going to build into the contracts a distribution plan that ensures that there are chargers distributed to all council districts. We want to make sure that that is solidified in this 10-year contract, so we have distribution across the city.
How much is a charging station to install?
Sorry, could you repeat that question?
Say it again?
Could you repeat that question?
How much does it cost to build a charging station?
Yeah, so it varies a little bit. Fast charging stations are quite expensive. They're around $800,000 for a project, but level 2 chargers are much less expensive. They're around $15,000 to $25,000. That's one of the reasons we wanted to do a concession contract. That means the vendors are bringing those capital costs to the table in conjunction with federal funds that we have already won or are planning on applying for.
What's your time frame for the rollout?
Yeah, we're hoping to have the first chargers installed at the beginning of 2027 if all goes well with contracting timelines.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hearing no further questions from members for this panel, and there being no other panels to testify on bills before the committee, we will now transition to our public comment session. Ms. McDonald, will you please call the first person making public comment? We have to testify this afternoon on the bills before the committee. I will note that Mr. Lance Haver has already spoken.
There are no names for public comment.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank all our witnesses for joining us today. There being no further questions from members of the committee and no other witnesses to testify on bills number 251020, 251021, 260426, 260427, 260464, 260431, 260428. I will ask if there's anyone else present in this hearing whose name we have failed to call and that wishes to offer testimony on the bills being considered today. Hearing none, I want to thank the panels and the witnesses for their participation today. This concludes the public hearing of the committee. We will now go into a public meeting to consider the action to be taken on the bills before this committee today. Ms. McDonald, will you please call the roll to take attendance? Members that are in attendance, please indicate you are present when your name is called.
Councilmember Brooks. Councilmember Jones? Councilmember Phillips? Councilmember Squilla? Vice Chair Young? Chair Driscoll?
Present. The chair recognizes Councilmember Young for a motion on the amendment to Bill number 251021.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I offer an amendment to Bill number 251021. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee. I move that the amendment to Bill number 251021 be approved.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Jones seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to Bill number 251021 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. The motion carries and the amendment to Bill number 251021 has been approved. Chair recognizes Councilmember Young for a motion on the amendment to Bill number 260464.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I offer an amendment to Bill number 260464. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee. I move that the amendment to 260464 be approved.
The chair notes for the record the Councilmember Brooks seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to Bill number 260464 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. The motion carries and the amendment to Bill number 260464 has been approved. Chair recognizes Councilmember Young for a motion on Bill number 251021 as amended and Bill number 260464 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that Bill numbers 251021 as amended and Bill number 260464 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the first reading of these bills at our next session of council. Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Brooks seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that Bill number 251021 as amended and Bill number 260464 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The motion carries. Chair recognizes Councilmember Young for a motion on bills number 251020, 260426, 260427, 260431, and 260428.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the bills numbers 251020, 260426, 260427, 260431, and 260428 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of these bills at our next session of council.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Squilla seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that bills number 251020, 260426, 260427, 260431, and 260428 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of these bills at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The motion carries. This concludes the business before this committee on transportation. Hold on. Yeah, it was amended. This concludes the business before the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities today. Thank you all very much for your attendance. We're adjourned.